Can you guys all hear me? Yeah. Cool. My name is Bishop Lafer. I am the Marketing Developer Analyst here at IDX Broker, and I'm here to talk to you all about EAT SEO. First off, I want to start out by kind of polling the audience. There's like a question on your phone now. How familiar are you with SEO? Kind of just want to get a gauge. So the blue is a lot a bit. The pink is not at all, and the yellow is like a lot a bit. So, a little bit. Oh, right. So yeah, a little bit. Pink or yellow is a little bit. So, cool. That's awesome. I have a lot of information for you, so that's cool. I'm glad I'm not talking to a room full of experts, but like people who are familiar, because some of this stuff like you might recognize, some of it you might not. So that's cool. So, are any of you familiar with EAT, or what that acronym means? So maybe, no, maybe not, no. That's cool, because I'm going to tell you right now literally right now what it means. Or we got some people coming in the door. Maybe we'll wait just a second. Hey, you guys. All right, so EAT is an acronym that stands for expertise. Because I am an expert. A is authority. Look at me. Look at me. I am the captain now. And T is trust. I believe you. So this is Google's actual definition of what EAT is. This comes from, Google actually pays real people to rank page quality now, as opposed to specifically using algorithms. So high level of expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. High quality pages and websites need enough expertise to be authoritative and trustworthy on their topic. Remember, there are expert websites of all types, gossip websites, fashion websites, humor websites, forum and Q&A pages. Some types of information are found almost exclusively on forums and discussions where a community of experts can provide valuable perspectives and topics. Case in point, Stack Overflow, right? Like I'm sure most of you are familiar. If you Google any kind of code question, Stack Overflow is typically the #1 result. So if you think about the topic of the page, what kind of expertise is required for the page to achieve its purpose well? Ultimately, Google is a service, right? They want you to find the information you're looking for. That's what's important to them. So the standard for expertise depends on the topic of the page. For example, high-quality news articles and information pages on scientific topics should represent established scientific consensus where such consensus exists. So are you the New York Times, the Washington Post, or are you the Onion? Right? Yeah, the Onion ranks for things like, you know. So, I want to go over some basics. It seems like a lot of you are kind of familiar, but we're going to cover them anyways. You should always use Ahrefs, anchor tags with valid URLs, and you want your link descriptions, or your links to be descriptive. So rather than having a link that says click here, right, it should say visit our About Us page, right? And the link text itself should be the About Us page, right? So that users know where they're going before they get there. Make sure that your visual content is expressed in text form. Search engines, crawlers, bots don't know what images are, and so you need to make sure that you have alt descriptions on all of your images. Make sure that every page has a descriptive title and meta description. You should not have the same title for multiple pages. Like, just don't do it, right? And then a meta description can be as long as you want it. Doesn't matter. However, it's probably not useful after a certain amount. So I would recommend around 200 characters. If you're a blog or something, you could put the entire blog content into the meta description, but that's not useful. Really, where that information gets used is in a search engine results page underneath the link. The little description that goes underneath the link, that gets pulled from your meta description. And so you want to make sure that you have one. Meta keywords are not used anymore. It's not super important. You can have them, but it's useless at this point. And then make sure that you use semantic HTML. And actually another thing that I want to mention about using an actual anchor tag, I know there's a lot of JavaScript developers out there. You should never use pseudo-links. No spans or divs with JavaScript event listeners to make you go to a new page. You need to actually use an anchor tag, right? No, just like work in the system, whatever. Like, yeah, it might be easier for whatever UI element. Use an actual anchor tag with some CSS, whatever. Also, make sure that you install Google Analytics. How do you know if you're successful if you're not tracking, right? So organic traffic would be under the acquisition report, and under channels, you can see your organic traffic. And to be honest with you, your organic traffic probably will not be your #1 channel. Realistically speaking, if you're doing branding well, your direct traffic will be your #1 channel, probably followed by organic, and then probably followed by paid. And you should definitely do paid traffic because it helps you with your organic results as well. Also, make sure that you have a Google Search Console account and that you register your, or claim your property in Google Search Console. And this will tell you exactly what keywords you are indexing for, how many impressions you get, and how many clicks you get. So it's very important. Also, make sure that you link your Search Console account to your analytics account. Also, if you are doing paid ads, you should link your analytics account and your Search Console account and your Google Ads account. Very important. Also, in Search Console, this is how you submit, this is where you submit a sitemap, right? So by submitting a sitemap, you are telling search engines what to expect when they get to your site. And if you're a brand new site, this is literally how you tell search engines to go out and crawl your site. So if you're new, no, you have a question?
Just wondering the difference between that and just having it up on your site and you can put robots to it and that kind of thing.
So if you just have a sitemap up on your site, I'm not sure I understand. So Noah, you asked what's the difference between submitting a sitemap to Google and just having a sitemap on your site?
From what I've seen, you can actually tell search engines who are crawling that it's there, like in robots.txt, you can say, here's my sitemap.
You can say it via robots.txt, yes. Which is also another part of just like a good SEO practice. However, if you want to get indexed, you need to register your domain, register a property in Search Console, submit a sitemap, and then you will get indexed. To be fair, you are getting indexed before you do those things, but you won't show up in search engine results pages because there's somebody else who did claim their property in Search Console and did submit a sitemap, and so Google already knows what to expect. You can also submit a sitemap to Yahoo and to Bing, so it's not just specific to Google. You just need to have a sitemap on your site. You should also tell in the robots.txt file where your sitemap is, but you also need to go to these search engines and tell these search engines what to expect on your site. So also in Chrome DevTools, if you're a Chrome user, there is an SEO audit that you can run under the Audits tab, which is all the way over here. It's actually relatively new. And so the most important things are, does your page have a meta name viewport tag with width or initial scale, right? So like it's mobile, right? Does your page work on mobile? It's super important. We'll talk more about that later. Does your document have a title element? Does it have a meta description, which is how the description in search engine results pages gets populated? It's very important to have that. Do you have a successful HTTP status code? And realistically, do you have a successful HTTPS? Because secure pages get indexed above non-secure pages. Do your links have descriptive text? Is your page blocked from indexing? Did you put a no index meta tag in your header? If so, if you did it on purpose, that's a good thing. If you didn't do it on purpose, you're losing out. Does your document have a valid href language? This is important for translators. Do you use legible font sizes? Are you avoiding plugins? And tap targets are sized appropriately. So if you have a page that has a long list of links, can a user interact on a phone with those links easily, right? So if you have a long list of links, you need to make sure that you have padding on every single link so that it's easy to interact on a phone, because mobile is very important. Also, is your robots.txt valid, to speak to your question? And are you using canonical links? So this is an audit that's available to anybody in Chrome DevTools. We'll actually talk more about this a little further on as well. So search engine optimization, it's a pretty volatile terrain, right? It changes all the time. On March 12th of 2018, Google put out this specific statement. Each day, Google usually releases one or more changes designed to improve our results. Some are focused around specific improvements, some are broad changes. Last week, we released a broad core algorithm update. We do these routinely several times per year. As with any update, some sites may note drops or gains. There's nothing wrong with pages that may now perform less well. Instead, it's that changes to our systems are benefiting pages that were previously under-rewarded. This right here is super, super important. There is no fix. I'll say it again. There is no fix for pages that may perform less well other than to remain focused on building great content. Over time, it may be that your content may rise relative to other pages. This is super important because on August 1st of 2018, Google rolled out an update that has been dubbed the Medic Update. They say it here. This week, we released a broad core algorithm update. As we do several times per year, our guidance about such updates remains the same as in March, where they tell you that there's nothing you can do about it, right? So literally, we just changed this. You can't do anything about it. The only reason why I talk about this is because as a professional who works in this industry doing these things, on August 1st, in my Search Console reports, I can very, 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 very clearly see a steep decline in organic impressions and clicks. That lasted for a long time, until March 19th of this year, actually, in which case Google rolled out another update, which they did not confirm nor deny that they rolled back some of the changes that they made on August 1st. However, I did see a very steep increase in organic clicks and impressions. So no matter what happened, I definitely saw a loss of traffic for however long that is. What is it, like August to 5 months? 5 months, lost a significant amount of organic traffic. But now it's back up, and it's even performing better than it had been, so that's cool. Just be aware it changes. There's nothing you can do. Content is key. Put out high-quality content, period. So there's definitely a lot of things that go into search engine optimization. It's difficult to stay on top of all of them. These pink ones down here are bad things, so if you're doing like keyword stuffing or spam, or you got hidden content, your domain cloaking, you'll probably lose some organic search rank. But if you're doing high-quality content, right? If you're authoritative on whatever topic you're speaking on, you'll probably do well. It is kind of too much to even cover, so I kind of just want to go over what is important right now. What's important right now? What can you do? So, number one, mobile-first indexing. Since March of 2018, Google on Twitter, because this is how they like to communicate, much like our president, after a year and a half of testing, Google Mobile First Indexing is beginning. This is where we index what's on a mobile version of a page rather than the desktop version. Rollout will be slow. However, at this point in time, it is 100% rolled out. Google indexes mobile first, period. So, the things that are super important, actually I forgot, I added this slide today because they made some changes last week on May 22nd. So, this is what a mobile search engine result page used to look like, and this is what it looks like now. There's a couple of changes. This top one on both sides is an ad. You can see that they took out the green. They lost the box around the ad. The ad looks more organic, but for the actual organic posts, you can now add a new tag in the head where you put a link with a rel attribute of search icon, right? That is just a fave icon, and now you can have your fave icon in organic search results pages. This is new as of last week. That's pretty cool. Also, keep in mind, they've also made some other changes. This isn't actually what a search engine results page looks like because they're doing content-rich or media-rich results that come from Google My Business that it lists first before all of this. So I just recently attended a talk in Portland called SEM PDX, and there's only 65% of real estate actually left for mobile search results pages because the top 35% is populated with, I'll show you what it looks like a little further on, but just be aware this isn't actually what it looks like. This is just what it looks like once you get past the rich media content. So page speed, because Google is now mobile first indexing, right? Page speed is a ranking factor. It is super duper 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 important. This is a tool that Google has provided for us thinkwithgoogle.com/feature/test my site. This is really cool because not only will it allow you to test your site speed, but it will let you test your competitor's site speed right alongside. So this is an opportunity. I'm telling you, there's a really good chance that your competitors are not doing this. This is a really good opportunity for you specifically to stand out in search engine results pages because I bet money your competitors aren't doing it. This is an actual page speed insights test. So you can test your page speed and they will give you feedback and tell you what you need to do in order to improve that. This actually runs on a thing called Lighthouse, which we'll revisit right now. So this is the audits tab in Google Chrome DevTools, right? You can now run all of these audits: performance, progressive web app, best practices, accessibility, and SEO. And SEO is the one that I showed you just a little while ago. The important one here is performance because it actually affects your search engine ranking. SEO, that one's kind of easy. I feel like most people have the basics, right? At this point, most people have the basics down. So what can you do to stand out? The performance one. And this is what an actual performance test looks like. And if you look down here, you can kind of see this is a performance test for Google's actual, it's for this page, right? So I ran a performance test for that page. And they didn't do so hot. They got a 46, but also that they're Google, it probably doesn't really matter that much. So when you do run a performance test, there's 6 categories that you're testing. First contentful paint, first meaningful paint, speed index, first CPU idle, time to interactive, and estimated input latency. What do those things actually mean? So first contentful paint measures the time from navigation to the time when the browser renders the first bit of content from the DOM. Speed index is a page load performance metric that shows you how quickly the contents of a page are visibly populated. The lower the score, the better. First meaningful paint identifies the time at which the user feels that the primary content of the page is visible. The first CPU idle metric measures when a page is minimally interactive. Most, but maybe not all UI elements on the screen are interactive. The page responds on average to most user input in a reasonable amount of time. And then time to interactive measures how long it takes a page to become interactive, which is defined as the page has displayed useful content, which is measured by first contentful paint. Event handlers are registered for most visible page elements, and the page responds to user interactions within 50 milliseconds. Some sites optimize content visibility at the expense of interactivity. This can create a frustrating user experience. The site appears to be ready, but when the user tries to interact with it, nothing happens. So this is like common day version of keyword stuffing, right? Like, don't do it. It will negatively affect you, right? I don't know, do you guys know what keyword stuffing is? Back in the day, when Google first came out, you could just like put a bunch of keywords that you wanted to appear for in your HTML and then hide it via CSS. Right, so it wasn't visible, you just make it match the background color, whatever. It wasn't visible, it's how you cheated the system. And so making non-interactive UI elements is the equivalent common day. Just don't do it, because you will get blacklisted and you won't show up in search results pages and you'll be like, why not? Well, because you're cheating. So what can you do to enhance your page speed? You can enable browser caching. Leveraging caching enables your page to load faster. Make sure that all images have a long cache period, or HTML elements, all of your text and stuff, it's all cached for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, so that anytime someone makes a request beyond the initial request, it's snappy. Enable compression on the server side. So for your images, yes, Dr. Bud. It does, yes. And it runs on a simulated mobile network. But if you're running it in Chrome DevTools, you can choose which one you want it to run on. So you can either choose like a simulated mobile network, the actual mobile network, or you can just run it as you want it. Lighthouse actually has an API, and you can designate how you want it to run no matter what. And also, I have an example of a good caching policy as recommended by Google in this really cool PDF that I got from Google that there will be a link to in the Eugene Web Dev GitHub repo. Also, you should avoid loading duplicate JS and CSS files. This is something that I did a lot when I was like first learning. Anytime you have to render JavaScript or load extra CSS, especially if you have CSS that's not actually being used on your page, that is negatively affecting you. Remove any duplicate images. Make sure that all of your images are compressed. Minify your CSS and your JavaScript. And then one step further, eliminate any render blocking CSS and JavaScript in above the fold content, because you're being measured on first contentful paint and first meaningful paint. So you want to make sure that you have critical path CSS. Critical path CSS being the CSS that is required to load the above the fold content. Yes, Antonio. I explained it just a second ago, but paint means when it's as the visual elements become visible on the page.
Where's that line where it's defined at paint starts? Like the first visual element?
Yeah, paint. Yes, literally. So critical path CSS being only the CSS needed to render the above the fold content should be minified and loaded in the head of the document. All other CSS and JavaScript, so for instance, if you have a navigation that requires JavaScript to work, you only need the JavaScript that the navigation needs in the head. All other CSS and JavaScript should be loaded just before the close of the body tag, asynchronously even. Yes, Dr. Budd.
So if I have a choice between including a given library, let's say BigQuery,
Mm-hmm.
I can include it via CDN, just a script tag that includes it, or I can bundle it with the rest of my resources. Is there a recommendation about which?
Yes, you should take the parts that you need to load the above the fold content, minify it and put it in the head, and then load the rest via CDN in the bottom of the page. Or you could bundle it and load it via your server. However, the CDN is faster. You should definitely use the CDN. I didn't actually talk about CDN in this. I didn't put it in my slide. However, I did provide this for everyone, right? This is the Mobile Site Speed Optimization Master Cookbook Guide. I literally got this in an email from someone at Google, and it outlines all of that. Literally every piece of information from the last like 3 or 4 slides came from this, and it is available to all of you in the GitHub repo. It is very valuable. And I promise you this is something that your competitors are not doing. I would put money on it. So local search. This is the real battleground. How do I get found? I'm a local company. How do I get found? Well, everything that we just talked about, just the basics, anchor tags, semantic HTML, validated HTML5, all of that stuff is the base of this pyramid. And then the next step above, I know that you guys said, a lot of you guys said that you are somewhat familiar with SEO. Does anybody remember the directory days or whatever, right? You remember the directory days? So that's what this is actually. Review acquisition, NAP breadth, and NAP consistency. NAP literally stands for name, address, and phone number. So NAP breadth is, are you on those directories, right? Do you have a Google My Business page? Do you have a Yelp page? Are you on yellowpages.com? Are you on the industry-specific niche directories that you should be on? And then NAP consistency is, does your name, address, and phone number match on all of those things? And then review acquisition. Google My Business links with Facebook, Yelp. Are you getting reviews? In organic search results, your review rating shows up underneath the title of your page, followed by that description that's populated by the meta description. Publishing strategy is, are you putting out fresh, relevant content on a schedule, right? Do you do bi-monthly blog posts or weekly 2-minute tip videos? That kind of thing. And then competitive edge is, where do you stand out against your competitors? I'm telling you, you could stand out against your competitors on page speed. That is probably the #1 competitive edge that you could have, but I'm sure that there are other things specific to each of you. Google My Business is very, very, very important because this is how search engine results pages get populated and also map results pages. And it's super important because Google has put out this. It's called the discovery feed. So These are results that are shown before anybody even searches, right? So how do I get there? Like literally nobody searched. Also, these are the results that I was talking about show up above the organic and the paid results on a mobile search, right? This is what it looks like on desktop. This is what it looks like on mobile. Like something, I don't remember what the number is, but something like 70% of searches happen on a mobile device. So this is super important. This gets populated via Google My Business because you can make posts that expire every 2 weeks, and literally that content comes from there. It also comes from structured data, right? This is exciting. Here's the really nerdy part. Here's some code. This is structured data that I got from the NCDC Storm Events database. So this is structured data for a data set, but there's all sorts of different types of structured data. It is LD plus JSON format. This structured data specifically is storm data, is provided by the National Weather Service and contains statistics on ... But as you can see here, it's atmospheric phenomena, cyclones, drought, fog, and freeze is specifically what this is. If you are using structured data, congratulations. If you're not and you want to, this is how you can make sure you're doing it correctly. It's a tool provided by Google. Literally the structured data testing tool. So it's search.google.com/structured-data/testing-tool. There it is. Or you could just Google structured data testing tool. You'll find it. So you can either check your URL, or you can just copy and paste your structured data in. If you haven't gone live or whatever, you can just copy and paste. So this is that code that I showed you just a second ago in this tool. So it's verified what the type is. It is a data set. The name is NCDC Storm Data or Storm Events Database. Description: storm data is provided by the National Weather Service and contains statistics on various things. What the URL is, what the identifiers are. This is what it looks like when it works. It's a cool tool. And if you don't know anything at all about structured data and you want to learn, this is a code labs that is provided by Google to walk you through a tutorial on how to learn how to use it. And so this also is the discovery feed, and you can see here, those are reviews, right? So these are specific to recipes, which is, it's what they use for their example, but it's important, right? These are the reviews. Also, this isn't green anymore, now it's black, whatever. So yeah, this is cool. Now I kind of want to talk about SEO and JavaScript. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar. Not necessarily everybody, but I've got something special for you. This one's just for me. This one's just for me. Also, please note, programmer is spelled wrong.
No, it's a pro gamer.
No, programmer. Just one more time. There it is. All right. So in case you guys are not familiar, these are all JavaScript libraries, frameworks. Angular is supported by Google. React is supported by Facebook. Vue is its own thing, but it's pretty popular. We use it at IDX. So if you're using one of these, then you have a progressive web application or a single page application. How does Google index single page applications? Well, Google indexes them in two waves. There's the initial crawl, where all they get is the content that is available before your JavaScript has been executed, right? And then Google specifically, because Google's the only one that does this, they come back later once resources are available, execute your JavaScript, and then re-index your site once all of your content is available after JavaScript has been executed. That's not good, because if someone else is doing server-side rendering and they're just serving the entire content on the initial crawl, they will beat you, right? So how do you deal with that? Google recommends, oh, sorry, I forgot about this one. Two waves. Two waves. Most search engines, it's just the first wave and then I'm out, right? First wave and then I'm out. Google comes back the second time. But in order to combat that, Google recommends dynamic rendering, which means that you could potentially use a service worker, which I know that Eve is giving a talk on service workers next month. I don't know very much about it. I just know you can use them to do this specifically. You detect a bot via user agent, right? And if a bot is crawling your site, then you send that bot to static HTML that is hosted elsewhere, right? So you have, however you're storing your site, you got an S3 bucket, whatever.
Wouldn't that kind of look like cloaking, though?
It's not cloaking. It's actually recommended, and Google has tools that they have produced to do it, right? Ultimately, realistically speaking, if you can, you want to use server-side rendering. It's the best. But if you can't, there are tools to pull this off, where you detect a bot by user agent, and then you send that bot to static versions of your site where they load really quickly, and it just stays, right? Yes?
Where would we find Google's approved method of doing that?
This is one of them, actually. So Puppeteer is the high-level headless Chrome tool. Rendertron is built on that. It's very easy to deploy in Google Cloud Platform. If you don't want to use Rendertron, there's a couple others. There's a paid service called render.io that a lot of really big companies use, but I hear it's pretty expensive. If you don't want to use Rendertron, then you can use React Snap, it's called React Snap, although it is agnostic. It's only called React Snap because it's based off React Snapshot, but you can use it with Angular, you can use it with Vue, you can use it with whatever you want. And then Angular itself has a technology called Angular Universal, which is server-side rendering, which is the way that you should go. Because realistically speaking, if your competitor is not a single web page, a single page application, and they're using PHP, they're probably going to beat you because it's faster. PHP 7 is almost as fast as Node now, right? So that's why PHP still works. And then if you're looking for more resources about this, Google has actually been recently putting out content on YouTube, specifically the JavaScript SEO. They started putting this out in the beginning of April. This specific video is about how to make your React web apps discoverable. The next one in line was about how to make Angular discoverable, and they've got another one about Vue. And then also they have a second playlist, which is just Googlebot SEO myth busting. So if you don't know anything about it, this is a good place to go. The Google Webmasters YouTube channel is full of resources specifically about SEO and specifically about JavaScript and SEO together. And that's all I have to talk about. Thank you all. Are there any questions?
Do you have the slide deck in the GitHub?
Yes, I do. The slide deck is in the GitHub, as well as every single link as it appeared, because all of these images are linked to the resource where it came from. So the slide deck's in there, and then even below the slide deck is literally every link in the order that it came in.
And that link's on Meetup already.
And it's on Meetup, and it's also at the Eugene Web Dev GitHub repo. Yes.
Do we know where the line is between server-side rendering and cloaking? Exactly the same, or
No, cloaking is frowned upon.
yeah, but how do they tell the difference between cloaking and I'm generating this page slightly different way, server-side?
So, oh
Cloaking
man.
is when you say we're a page about ponies and you show tanks.
Yes. So it's when you're not serving the content that you say that you are serving, right? Whereas dynamic or server-side rendering is literally static HTML versions of your site where your page has been pre-built and it's just hosted.
Right. But as Google, I'm sure knows, the world is full of jerks.
Yes.
We're going to try. How do they tell that I'm not
I don't even know.
trying to be a jerk on purpose versus?
Well, if you submit a sitemap and they know what to look for and they're expecting it and then they find the content that you said you were going to give them, then you're probably not cloaking. Right? I think that's why it's important to register and claim your property in Search Console and submit a sitemap. So Noah had a question first.
Well, I was just saying, I don't know, but hypothetically, if they continue to do that two-step crawling of it anyway, that can also be part of verifying that?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Probably, I don't know. I don't know for a fact, but that would make sense to me because they are still indexing you. Even if you don't go to Search Console and you don't submit a sitemap, they're still crawling you. They have an index of you. If you tell them that you're giving them something and then you give them something else, you'll probably get blacklisted, but they'll still index you anyways. Josh, did you still have a question?
Yeah, I actually had a few questions built up.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
I didn't want to ask them during runtime, but
Why would you want to use NoScript to put an anchor tag?
I'm just trying to think of some other mechanism by which you can try to indicate that even though I'm not necessarily relying on a tag specifically, because maybe I'm using my own definition language. I mean, it's all HTML.
Well, like that also could be an issue for accessibility.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's something like that. You know what I mean? Like, is there some way that I'm not going to get penalized for using the a tag by using some other mechanism within my container that I've already latched onto?
You will probably get penalized.
No matter what.
Yeah, I think so. They just want you to use regular semantic HTML. Use an anchor tag. A link is a link. That's how Google crawls the entire internet. They only know what exists because there's a link from another link from another link from another link from another link. That's why they don't want you to use pseudo links in JavaScript event handlers.
I mean, I guess along those lines then, with HTML5, what about all the brand new shiny tags? You know, things that are meant to denote some sort of layouty kind of sense, like section tags.
Section or article.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's only one example off the top of my head, but there's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bunch of those.
Or address, or
Exactly.
timestamp.
Exactly. Like, are those looked at in a similar fashion?
Yes, you should validate your HTML5. You should validate your HTML5. If you're saying that this is an address, then Google's going to think
Look at it and say,
this is an address, and then it's going to compare what your address, what you say your address is across every other site it's ever picked up information about you on.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, cool. So one of the things you mentioned was comparative webmaster tools. Do, like, you know, obviously you focused on Google here, which I think the bulk of the population does. You know, do the Bing or Yahoo tools, or are there, comparatively speaking, are they even
Yes.
worth bothering with?
Yes, they are. Maybe, right? So that's why analytics is super important, because in your referrals channel, you can tell where most of your traffic is coming from. If you find that you have a lot of traffic from Bing and it is valuable to you, one, I think that you should submit a sitemap to every single search engine. But yeah, if you specifically see that you have a lot of traffic from Bing and it is valuable to you, then there are tools provided by Bing that you can use to track your performance. Also, that's why it's super important for this stuff that we talked about at the very end, like server-side rendering and dynamic rendering. Like, Bing is not executing JavaScript. Neither is Yahoo. So that's why server-side rendering is king right now.
One other thing that I'll skip my Gmail display rule settings, because that was just another weird thing, but one that Brian here can attest to. I mean, in the sense that, like, when you're talking about, like, either content or keyword stuffing or things like that, we recently discovered that Gmail absolutely hates using the CSS rule displayed on it, but has absolutely no problem whatever with visibility hidden.
Yeah. So this is not about email at all, but there's not a single, email is a whole, that's a whole entire subject in and of itself. Like, no email client respects the same exact rules as the next, like, period. Yeah, you're better off using something like MailChimp because they deal with all of that.
Right. Could you elaborate what you mean when you say media rich? Because it seems contradictory to one of the things that was said earlier, which is, you know, like, obviously crawlers are not going to necessarily be able to suss out what an image is. They want text. They want something they can latch onto like that.
Yeah.
But when you say that they're, as it were, benefiting media-rich, quote-unquote, things, what does that actually mean?
This is literally this is a media rich result where you have an image or a video, and you're either making a post on Google My Business where you post a video and some text about it, and this result actually doesn't even click. If you do post it on Google My Business, it doesn't actually click to your website. It's just a card that's populated by Google My Business, and you can click on it and get more information, and there will be a link to your website. However, it doesn't click through to your website, which is why I mentioned that there's only 65% of organic search results, real estate available in mobile search period anymore, because this is what they're populating it with now, right? As opposed to...
So you don't mean media rich as in, like, on the website itself. You mean there's a combination, as it were, of maybe media...
No, I literally mean this is a media rich result. I'm literally just talking about this specifically.
Okay.
Right?
Google is presenting a, quote, media rich result.
Yes.
Okay,
That's literally what I'm talking about.
That was clear.
Were those all of your questions?
Hey, I tried to save them up, so.
Yes.
You mentioned meta. No more. I didn't quite catch it all. Something is not being used in
Meta keywords.
Okay, so meta keywords.
No, it is a meta tag in the head. There was one that was like meta with the attribute keywords, and then you could like put some keywords in there. They're not using that anymore. So now it's meta description is the one that they're using.
How long has that been gone?
For a while. Yeah, for a while. Yes.
So content seems like a great way to build the expertise part of it. How do you build the authoritativeness? Things to you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's backlinking, also historical data. How long have you been around? And then, yeah, are other people referencing you as the source of truth, right? Which is also, it speaks to trust.
One other thing on that too, it's also the frequency of backlinks. In other words, if you've got 10,000 backlinks and then nothing forever, you may sandbox and penalty out.
Because you're no longer the authority. You may have been at one point, but you're no longer relevant. Did you have a question?
Yeah, it's similar. So on that pyramid of results, the one being
That was right here.
production timeline or publishing strategy.
Publishing strategy, yes.
So are you saying foundation of local search marketing, is that more, does Google care very much about your publishing strategy and frequency and regularity of frequency? Or are you saying this is a broader, like,
I'm not sure I understand your question. Can you say it one more time?
does Google care how regularly you publish?
Yeah, if you need to be putting out fresh, relevant content, yes.
So they care about frequency, do they care about regularity? Like, hey, we post Thursdays at 2 in the afternoon, every Thursday.
I don't think that Google cares so much about regularity, but your audience probably does. And Google's picking up on your audience using your site, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if you like set a schedule and you always get traffic, I think Ryan had a question and then I'll get yours, Nicole.
Your crawl rate is also affected by your frequency.
Sure.
So if you're going to Thursday,
Sure.
you're not crawling in that regularity. So without that, basically.
What was your question, Ryan?
Regarding like authority and like the trustworthiness, I imagine that the authority, whatever the authority rating on people linking to you, I assume that matters. So if like the New York Times or something needs to you, that's better
As a source?
than just some random like blog.
Yeah, but also the random blog could also be the source of authority.
Help, but like New York Times would help more. Like it would be, would that influence your?
The New York Times would probably attribute a boost to your authoritativeness, yes, but also you could be authority in whatever it is you're talking about without having any association with other large organizations. New York Times is just an example as an authority in the news space, right? But Fox News is also an authority. CNN, right? MSNBC, they all are. You know what I mean? Because it's...
I understand this. You're in the news space or whatever space you're in, whatever the higher point of view, or the question I'm going to ask is the higher authority in that space would bring your authority up
Yes, definitely.
more so than somebody with less authority.
Probably, yes, yes.
Unless it's changed, I did learn some about that, at least in a previous iteration. That was a relevant thing because otherwise you do, hey, I made a random site that doesn't do anything but link to.
That's spam, though. That's considered spam. So if you have a lot of spam links,
Yeah. So, but at least in that other iteration, it was sort of like everybody starts even and then you go through some iterations of who links.
it is very much your network of links. But if you're an individual posting on a social media site, right, on a page specifically, then that page also has authority. If you are literally just, it's like keyword stuffing, right? Like people used to make sites that were just full of links just so that they could get traction in SEO. That's like totally frowned upon now, and that's been frowned upon for a long time. You know what I mean?
Maybe this question will show up a little bit, rusty on SEOs, but is PageRank still a thing?
PageRank?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what all of this is about.
So is
So
it
that's
all?
what that is. PageRank is that thing of taking the relative authority.
Yeah, so your EAT score, your expertise, authority, and trust is a one aspect of what gives you PageRank. Actually, that first slide when you came in, this all the way back here, this definition came out of, like I said, Google actually pays real people to determine what your quality is, right? And quality is a part of your PageRank score. So this literally came out of a 100-page PDF that is the rubric for the humans that determine what your quality score is or your PageRank, right? And so did this very, very, very first thing. This is like an image on the second page. So yes, PageRank is very much a real thing, and everything we just talked about is a contributor to what your PageRank is, and that's what actually determines where you fall in the organic results. Does that make sense? Yes?
Man, I'm surprised you called me again. No, we were just actually wondering, are there benefits or detriments to doing any sort of DNS kind of, I don't know, trickery, shenanigans? We were sort of imagining like...
Domain forwarding will cost you, if you, yeah. It's going to negatively affect you. It will negatively affect you. However, if you have a lot of sites that are all under one domain, say you have like a lot of subdomains, if you verify your property via DNS record in Search Console, then it covers all of them, as opposed to having to make individual properties for each individual subdomain. Instead, all of your URLs that are associated with that domain will be in one property that you can manage in one place, and you can do comparative reports only if you verify via DNS.
But I mean, kind of along Ryan's line, let's say that I've got like, let's say that I've got like 100 sites registered, all under my individual name, and let's say that that name matches across all of them, and I'm linking back to my main site that I'm trying to boost SEO for from those 100 different sites. Is Google or is any crawler going to recognize that and weight it?
Yeah, it's internal deep linking, and that it is a good SEO practice, but it's not going to have the same effect on your PageRank as having someone else recognize you as a source of authority elsewhere, right? Does that make sense? You should definitely do internal deep linking, period, right?
So I should bot it up.
You don't want to like load it too much. It should flow within a natural speech pattern, right? Or whatever you're reading in your HTML, because another basic is like the keywords you want to list for should be 3 to 5% of the overall text on the page, and it needs to be as if it's spoken word, because mobile search, like it needs to be full phrases. It can't just be like just computer jargon text that a bot's going to pick up on. That's like totally frowned upon. It needs to be human consumable content. And 3 to 5% of your keywords should naturally, if you're actually talking about what you say you're talking about, then naturally the keywords that you will list for will be 3 to 5%. But you don't really need to focus on that, right? That it was a focus like 3 or 4 years ago, but now it's like very much spoken, human readable, right? If it's written for a human being about a specific topic, then the keywords that you will list for will naturally be 3 to 5% of your total content on the page specifically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm just saying, given that paradigm, I'm still wondering why I couldn't literally go register 100 domains, link back to my main domain using a fairly basic algorithm, taking into the 3 to 5% rule. I mean, I could program for that.
You could.
And literally link back to my main
Are you an Amazon affiliate marketer? Like, what are you actually trying to accomplish?
But I'm just saying that, like, I could easily see, like, setting something like that up and, as it were, milking the system. I'm just wondering if there's any sort of gatekeeping mechanism other than, let's say, humans.
I'm pretty sure they're always on the lookout for that.
Yeah. To some extent, sure.
So if you're doing a thing that is intentionally gaming the system, they're going to find out that you're doing that.
Right.
So you can't.
Why would you do that?
But that doesn't-
Because you're an Amazon affiliate marketer. Literally,
No, if you're an Amazon affiliate marketer, yes, but why would you do it just for,
For a page,
I mean,
I mean, that's
but ultimately though, just
But like, is that actually to take money?
yeah, right. So that
That's what I want. I want money.
It's a business trade-off. It's a business trade-off. Does registering those 100 domains make me more or less in my investment than in my page ranking for my main site?
now you sound more like an Instagram farm, right? Where you're selling likes and followers.
Follow me on.
Yeah, so there's two models where you're like either an Amazon affiliate marketer or you're like a social media quick farmer, like yeah. It's cool. Did you have another question, or was that was it? Yes, Dr. Bud.
I have a different question. So, if I, like, let's suppose I'm writing an article for Scientific American about fake news, and I want to talk about, give some examples of fake news sites, but I don't want to accidentally give them my authority. Are there link attributes or something so that I can refer to them?
They're already.
Yeah. No follow. Also, though, if you're writing an article as an authority about fake news and linking to actual fake news articles, you're not giving them authority. You are the authority. Does that make sense? And it's because they are crawling your content and they're reading it and using machine learning and AI to like determine what your article is actually about, and then verifying that the links that are in your article match what you're talking about. The system is pretty smart, to be fair.
Right, but if I have an article that's basically talking about fake news, let's say I put 10 links in there about good fake news detection sites. And
Yeah.
10 more links about the worst fake news sites. Is there a way to, there's no follow sounds like a might be a trick. But
Yeah, for the ones that are the fake news sites that you don't want to be associated with. What did you say?
Don't involve, just write it as a list of facts. Like you do anywhere else, but don't.
That's true too, yeah.
but I want interactive readers to actually do it. Like rel no follow is the way to go.
Yeah, that's the
JavaScript.
Or a pseudo link, although I wouldn't use a pseudo link because that'll affect your page rank overall because it's user experience.
The bad actors are still going to see you in the referrer list and know that you're talking bad about them.
Yeah.
What was your question?
This all being very Google-centric, are there any glaring differences with the other search engines?
Yeah, Google's the only one that renders JavaScript, right? That's also it's the biggest. So I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah.
The no follow, if you want to have authority by talking about something and having lots of references to other sites so that you can show how you know all your other sites, but they're competitors, so you don't want to give them a leg up. That's another reason. No follow.
Yeah, because you don't want your site associated with the sites that you're linking to. You're telling Google that, because Google literally reads the internet by following link after link after link after link after link.
Or you're telling the crawler not
You're telling the crawler not to associate these other sites with you.
that you get authoritativeness from talking about all the other authorities in your field.
You can.
Well, if you use no follow.
No, not if you use no follow.
Well, I mean, if they link to you with no
If they link to you with no,
from it,
yeah.
creating more content is going to be good for you.
The content specifically show it, but I don't think with the other one.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I can.
Moreover, no follow isn't stopping the visitors to your site from following that link. You know what I mean? Like if they can follow that link and leave your site, that's a net loss.
Did you still have a question? No?
It is possible to do what you said. It's expensive at first. Okay.
With the
Farming out for multiple. They know who's paying for each thing. So
Yeah.
you can have multiple credit cards.
what was your question?
I was going to ask about websites that have a kind of login first type, like how their stuff works. So if you have like site crawler going through your website, but the first access point into that domain is a login page.
Yeah, then it's all, yeah, it won't index any of that. If everything is hidden behind a login, user authentication, then none of those pages get indexed.
So that just doesn't.
Yeah.
You want a site that has something but not, no protected content, that page heavy, log in, you can get this, and not log in, you can get that, and then follow up, and not log in stuff. So that would be one way, like, site or
So on the same page, you would show different content to logged in users and not logged in users.
To some extent, it's also like you have an article enough to subscribe to you for free. You still want people to discover that and have a reason to subscribe.
So that would be the not logged in to get that snippet, and
Yeah.
then sign in to get the rest, and then, so that would be, yeah, good concept.
Are the Google tools smart enough to do that without having to code it yourself?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Can you specify, like, let's say, like, within your Google tools, like console, when your webmaster console, whatever we're calling it.
Search console now.
Can you specify, as it were, like, this is what I'd like generally indexed if you're a not logged in user. This is what I'd like
If you are a logged in user, it doesn't get
But
indexed.
that's what I mean, though. In other words, you want those results to appear for maybe your user. I don't know.
You can't.
Yeah.
No, yeah, literally you don't. You
Yeah.
don't. It doesn't.
Logged in, not logged in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you could do, say you had other pages that were public, there which might not.
Okay.
Have a sitemap that
Yeah.
had those pages, so it's not all the pages.
Yeah.
But, the only way to do that is after pages that have other pages.
Ryan, did you have a question?
Or just auto logging, detecting that it's Google, give Google a fake account. See what the,
But then we're functionally back at the same sort of answer, right?
Ryan, what was your question, Ryan?
If you don't put things that you want indexed behind a login. You don't do it.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it right there.
Don't even vary the content based on login versus login, unless you're just showing a username or something in the header. Serve all the same content for both people, but if there's a protected section of the site, put that behind the login and serve all the same stuff, like all the same homepage, all the same about pages, all the same other.
Or have a middleware. Like honestly, if you're selling a product or whatever, then you have a marketing site. You got a middleware, an actual like user interface where you use a product, that kind of thing. You know. Also, though, it's 7:30, so I'm going to be around if you have other questions, but I want to take this microphone off. Thanks, dude.
Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. Just to remind everybody that next month's meetup is about service workers with Eve. Going to be talking about all the fun JavaScript that happens in the browser clients and fun stuff you can do with that. Should be also very fun. Again, thanks, Bishop. That was great. And he's going to be hanging out. If you guys want to Josh, if you want to ask him a few more questions, he's right over there. Thanks, everybody.